Here we are.
Best laid plans. We had it working, and then of course dropped the wireless signal. I'm going to have to look at my phone as we talk to see if we have anybody who has any questions.
Yeah. You can tell Rick is the technical one of the pair. So if there's anything that has to do with technology, Rick's going to handle it, not Roger.
And actually, as we do that, well, hello, Miss McKnight. How are you? Long time no see. I'm not getting on this either, so we're getting comments in, but
that was a great conversation, man. Oh gosh.
Roger.
Yes.
Why are we doing this?
I think
It really was a good idea at first, wasn't it?
Well, certainly. I mean, the one thing we realized from the very start, Rick, was technology was going to have to be a piece that we were going to have to overcome to get the idea out that people needed an avenue to just go over stuff. You know, they have stuff in their lives, and as you and I have talked over and over, so many people don't have anybody to talk to. And so we were hoping that Southern Porches, as we had grown up, one of the things we'd seen was when you had issues, you could go out, get you some iced tea, get around people that you valued their opinion, and ask their opinion. And they would freely give it to you and build a relationship of casualness and support. And I think we want to...
Thank you for bringing that.
I think that's what we want to do, Rick. I think we want to build an environment of casualness and support. And I think that's what Southern Porches is really about, is going over issues that we've heard about in our travels of going to school and being therapists and dealing in different environments. We just need to share with people kind of what we've heard, what we know about, and hopefully, as we would do if we were sitting on a porch with them.
Right. So we're not going to be counseling anybody.
No, we're not here.
We're not going to be coaching anybody.
Right. I think it's much more of a mentor-mentee kind of relationship more than a therapist and a client relationship. I think that's one thing we really want to move away from because, again, we're thinking this is equivalent to sitting on a porch. And this used to be, back in the day, a incredible part of Southern life. Most people had a porch, and it was a place where people hung out, and they talked sometimes about very serious things.
And hey, Isaac, Mark, good seeing you. My Louisiana Baptist University advisor down there.
Yeah, there we go. Good.
Now if I get some binoculars, I can see who we're talking to. Hey, it's casual, right? It's,
yeah. You know, if you're wondering about that, just step up and look. You know, that's really what we want to convey to people. You know, we're not here to look like we're, you know, have everything down pat. That we've got all the answers answered and everything covered. You know, we're wondering too. We're trying to go through things too. And what we're trying to share with them is our knowledge. Again, like this was, let's say 40, 50 years ago, the norm. It was not unusual. I can remember, going back to a memory, of my father, who was a newspaper man, sitting and having a coffee with the lieutenant governor of the state.
Roger, where were you born?
In Oklahoma. And
no way!
Yeah.
I was born in Oklahoma.
There we go. So a bunch of Okies, and we got some sense and moved to the east. But
who do you pull for? The Sooners or the Cowboys?
Oh, the Sooners. Man.
No way!
Man.
I'd pull for the Sooners.
You know, we don't need to get into that discussion. But you know, there is the university, and then everybody who couldn't get in there went to Oklahoma State.
Wait, I got some relatives that have gone to OSU, so.
Oh, okay.
But it's fair. Okay.
For the audience here, I have to share with them that one of the things I can lay claim to, okay, is that I have ridden a live elephant at the University of Oklahoma.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, there we go.
If you know what I've ridden in
No,
Oklahoma.
it's just the fact that there would be an elephant in Oklahoma to begin with. But I went to a fraternity party and they had a elephant there, and they said, "Would you like to ride it?" And I said, "Would I?" So I was riding down the streets of Norman, Oklahoma, and riding this elephant like I couldn't do what I was doing.
Roger, I've been to some fraternity parties, and I've seen those elephants, but I never had a chance to ride.
Oh, hey, all they had to do was ask, man. I was ready.
Yeah.
I was that kind of kid, so that was good.
Well,
So, Rick, are we going to jump on what we're going to talk about today?
Well, you know, yes, we are. Again, from what little I was able to see until I get to go back over there, we do have several people that are outside the greater Greenville-Spartanburg area that have already joined us. But let me ask you, when I say these three words, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Christmas, Woodruff Road.
Whew. Yes.
And our Greenville friends are able to reply to.
A place where people lose their religion is what I'm thinking. That's what comes to my mind. Oh, gosh, man. People, a large group of people being overwhelmed would be a really good thought of that. It's too much. It's trying to put a large amount of people in a small space. And then you have traffic jams, you have tempers rising, you have accidents, you have all those kind of things that happen literally all over the country. So that's what I think of when you bring those three words up. It's just too much and too little.
Then what I don't understand is Christmas, joy to the world. Why do we see so much stress right now?
Well, I think the reason we see so much stress right now, Rick, is part of what you're talking about. Everybody wants to do the same thing at the same time in the same place. And it's not built to handle that. And so we're trying to force in our will. People get very strong-willed during the holidays, and it's my way or the highway. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to do it my way, and their way goes up against other people's way. And then you have people that during the holidays where they should be happy and merry and connecting with people, they're stressed, they're bitter, and they bring that home. That it's terrible that people go out in one mood and come back in another mood because they're trying to do something in a space that was not meant for so many people.
So, what can we do to help with stress? Can we do anything?
Yes, I think the number one handling of stress is best done in planning. I think that people don't plan well. And if people plan better, I'm going to go when I know there's not going to be people. I'm going to go in a way where I'm not going to be part of the problem. And I see people do this. I see people do this by shopping ahead of time. I see people doing this by shopping over the internet, that they're not part of that. And I think that is awesome planning, and it's also good mental planning that helps people mentally and be in the right holiday mood. But I think people don't want to take the time to do that, Rick, and so they go willy-nilly, and then before they know it, it's a mess. So I think it's at the top of the list of stress management is planning.
And planning helps us keep control, because what I see a lot is that when we lose control or feel like we're not in control, then that's where the stressors come in. I mean, today, I know, you're a good friend. I've known you for years. Those that don't know you, you've had your own TV series. You've been on Oprah. You've been on Jenny Jones. You've been on Montel. But I know the stress you must have had knowing you're going to be with me today and on Facebook.
I really have to say that I've been incredibly excited, incredibly prayerful about this time. And that it is something that I've dreamed of. And I think one of the things I learned, since we're going back to the time that I was on national TV and stuff, I think either it's something you like or it's something you don't like. And I think that when people do something they like, it goes well. They're excited. Even though they're nervous, they're able to direct that nerves. And so even though it seems on the outside maybe there's a lot of stress, in the middle of it, it's kind of focused energy.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel like that doing this with you is a negative, but an incredible positive thing.
Oh, yeah, I didn't throw negative in there. I just threw stress.
Well, I think when people think stress, I think they think negative.
Oh, good point, though. Does stress have to always be from a negative source?
No. I think that there's
if you won the $20 million lottery tomorrow, you've got to make a decision, right?
You're right. That's a good point. I think that people need to learn how to funnel the pressure, And I think that some people are just awesome at that. I've just been amazed at people who can go to work, and if something comes out of left field and really throws a lot of stress, wow, they just handle it so well. And it's because they channel it. They use it as a motivator, not as a ditch getting stuck in. And I think so much of the time, we're so focused on getting it done and getting it done a particular way, when things go a little left to center, woo-wee, buddy, that's not good. It's not pretty. And what people have a bad habit of doing there, Rick, is that when they get real stressed, they take it out on others. And so the other people who may have not had stress are going to have stress dealing with people who initially had the stress.
And if they don't take it out on someone else, then where does that go? And what's the detriment to the individual?
Oh gosh, I think we're seeing a generation come up like that, Rick, where they're having heart issues, they're having circulation issues, they're having dietary issues, they're having bowel issues. We're seeing more heart attacks and a whole lot of other medical issues that have come about because people have been under stress. That's one thing I certainly want to bring out here, is that we like to think of stress as one moment, but lots of times people live for years under stress. And I just want people to know out there, that's not free. That is going to really wear you out, Yeah.
Another dear friend of mine, Kim Hamilton, he has a good question. He says, are people shopping online to eliminate the stress, or because social anxiety in general? Do we eliminate stress by shopping online? And I can answer part of that. What another creator of stress is on the online, and I'll like to hear from you, but will the package get in here in time? And we have one of these neighborhood online opportunities to see what other people in the neighborhood are doing, and the latest thing that came out are packages that are being stolen off people's porches.
Yes.
At this time of year, and now we got this stressor. If I order it, do I have to be home to get it? But Kim, that's a great question. And are people shopping online to eliminate the stressors.
Well, I think there is a piece of that. Yes, people who have social anxiety will certainly shop online, but I think it is a cultural shift. I think people are finding it easier to do, and part of what you're talking about, where people get their packages stolen, I think we're seeing that happen, but I also see that people are adjusting to that. You know, that they're finding a place, a central location where you can drop your packages off and they're going to be safe, and you can come back later. I think what we were getting away with a lot by letting it be dropped at our front door and then picking it up later on the day. I thought that was a bad idea from the get-go, and I was just waiting for the place where people would steal. And now that they are, I think people are adjusting to that. And so the stressors are going way down by people making an adjustment and planning better. Like I said, it's so important when people plan. But when you rely that people are going to be honorable, whoo, I think you're setting yourself up for a lot of undue stress. When you can make other plans and keep your package safe and have a good holiday. And I think you mentioned another thing I think is important, which is that I order a package and they say it'll take a week to get there, but I'm looking for it to be there in 2 days. That's a setup for stress, Rick. You know, the shipping people, the people that the company you bought the merchandise from aren't stressing you. You've stressed you. You know, they're giving you an idea of reasonably it should take this long. And they usually go out to the long end. If it's going to take a week. So don't look for it to be there tomorrow. Look for it to be there in a week. If it's not there in a week, let us know. And what I've noticed is that usually, not always, but usually it's there if you allow for that time limit. But people, oh no, I'm going to order it, and because I'm who I am, I want it to be there tomorrow, and then they're wondering when it's not there tomorrow why they're so stressed. Oh, I think they've just set themselves up for failure. And there's a large portion of the population that does set themselves up for failure, that you and I've seen.
Yep. I'm going to go check our neighbor here in this chair.
Okay.
Because I noticed that we got a lot more on Miss Ida Pad, who is sitting there. And for those that cannot see Miss Ida Pad, she is one of the neighbors who's joining us on the porch right now. But in this high technology world, we're just going to see what Miss Ida Pad has to say.
Because one of the things we want to do in this program is to include you. We want you on the porch with us. And so if there's something on your mind, we cannot read your mind. We don't have that ability, but we do promise you that whatever concerns you might have, Rick and I want to address that. And, you know, based on the knowledge we bring to the table. What did you find out from the messages?
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Scott Pritchard, who just flew in from London yesterday.
Ooh-wee.
And will be having dinner with us tomorrow night before he and my other side of the family.
Yeah.
Well, what do you call that, the other side? Have you ever been divorced before?
Yeah. Yeah.
No way!
Yeah,
So have I.
And you know, and a piece of that is about workability.
Yeah.
You know, some people, they are just not workable. They are inflexible. And if you want to bring a lot of stress into your life, be incredibly inflexible.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how many families we work with where we see that it's just sad how it's just delivered, and when you don't have that flexibility, I think that's where we've been blessed. Is while we have blended families, we have families that do work with us, and that's where I was going with this. Scott's a good young man. He's a fine young man. I'm really proud of him. And but he's going down with my ex-wife and her family to the beach on Thursday, and I know they have a good time. I'll be excited to see him and my daughter tomorrow night.
Uh-huh.
But that's a good point. Blended families. How hard are blended families today?
They're very hard, and one of the reasons they're hard, Rick, is the issue of the lack of history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of us did not come from broken up families, and watching how adults in our family handled the divorce and the remarriage and the second family and all that. And so a lot of people now are just having to wing it. I don't know, I don't have any background, I don't have any experience. No background in my family, and the marriage didn't work out and here I'm at. Well, you know, life is not going to stop to you know, for you to take a lesson on how to be properly divorced. You got to wing it, and you've got to kind of take it a moment at a time. And a big piece that you're bringing up is workability.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, in so many issues, a lot of problems that people have with their neighbors, a lot of problems that people have at work, a lot of problems that people have in marriage is about workability.
Yeah.
They have no flexibility. And I'm not talking about giving in, I'm talking about working it out, you know, where it can be win-win, not win-lose. I want somebody, that's called selfishness, where somebody gets their way. Oh, you know, they always get their way. Well, that just creates a lot of stress, a lot of bitterness. And that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is somebody who comes in and says, what will work best for both of us?
And, you know, I think you and I have to admit, we definitely married up, and with Suzanne and Cheryl.
Amen. Amen.
We got two women who understand that, and you know, what it has brought to our families to be able to, you know, have that workability and flexibility in there, and and married up means from you and myself, not from XY. I've heard it. Now I'm just thinking, okay, make sure everyone's that.
You know, the real issue.
You and I married
you know,
up
we
from
can always
ourselves.
say that, this is better than that.
Yeah.
But the real bottom line here, Rick, is, you know, are you flexible? Do you have an element of flexibility in you? And maybe, and this is one thing I'm saying, at a later age, I'm much more flexible today than I was when I was young. Mm-hmm. When I was young, it was my way or the highway. And you know, I wouldn't look for anybody to be around me. And I was not the best person to be around. But I'm not that person anymore. And I can see why that person created their own problems. I brought so many problems in because of my lack of flexibility. I think as I've grown older, I've tried to think what's going to work for everybody, not what's going to work for Roger, not Roger's way, but everybody's way. Again, back to that idea, I'm always in the middle of my thought thinking win-win. Mm-hmm. What's going to win for everybody? Because trying to get people behind, this is not the best for me, this is not what I like, but I'll be agreeable and go along, creates over the long run a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, and we see that for people. They've given in to go along, and that is not what we're talking about here. We are not talking about giving in to go along. We're talking about what can we do so that we can work together and move this issue, this family issue, to a win-win situation.
The pastors today, do you think they realize that between 40 to 60% of their congregation is in some type of step family environment?
Boy, pastors, goodness gracious, people who lead churches. I want people to think back of what was the congregation like in 1950? What was the congregation like in 1960? Wow, 70, 80, 90. There has been so much change. And what a pastor was expected to do in 1950, I'm telling you today, wouldn't cut it. You know what you'd call a pastor pastoring like they did in 1950? Unemployed. That's what you'd call them. That won't work. You've got it calls for a different person, and your ability to work with people. See, I think back in 1950, the ability was to be the leader, and do it your way. But that won't cut it today. I think it's about how can we all, the church is all of us, and as I pastor it, I've got to think of what's best for the flock, just not the shepherd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually just brought up a good point. As we're going back to stress, Scott, who did fly in 18 hours to get here from London, stopped at customs in Detroit. Yeah, that would create a little bit.
That's wearing me out just hearing it. Just
today, flying in general.
Yeah.
Stressors.
Whew.
And what has happened to the civility in the airline travel?
Well,
we used to wear ties.
Yeah. Well, again, we've replaced politeness with profit. Politeness out the door. Profit, number one thing. It's not how you treat people, it's about getting people. We spend all this money, all this advertising, making all these promises that I believe people know for a fact we can't deliver that. But we're not going to tell people that. We're going to promise because it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. And so people, we're going to do this and hope that the majority of people keep their mouth shut. And I think that kind of attitude is coming back to bite a lot of companies. And the travel industry is one of those that are getting bit real big on this.
Kim, that's a good question. Roger will talk about it. But while I'm thinking about it, Amy Woods, if you are out there and get a chance to watch this, how did you do that this morning on your live feed where you brought the video in of another live watcher? I know you said they have to have a iPhone, or if anyone out there knows what I'm talking about. Amy this morning on her
technical questions.
Yeah, on her live video, she was I guess there's the technology out there now where you can actually bring somebody in and communicate with them, kind of like a FaceTime or a Skype. And Kim's asking again, will the families that focused on empowering one another find blending easier?
Well, again, blending is improved by flexibility. The understanding of the goals of others, and probably, let me bring in another huge idea, huge word here, listening. Boy, I tell you, there are so many families that get together and they yell and scream and go with each other. They meet each other for Christmas, and it's a nightmare because nobody's listening. And then let's work together. You can't work together. I don't care how you're doing things if you don't listen. And I think when you have a family, even a blended family, where you have every member listening, wow, great things happen, flexibility happens, understanding happens, and it's real easy in a listening environment to keep and maintain spirit. But boy, when you have people that are self-focused and narcissistic, woo, man, that's a bad moment. That's like dropping a grenade in the middle of a group. It just blows up everybody. It's not pretty at all.
Dr. Tim Jennings, a man who I have a lot of admiration for, who is out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He wrote the Remedy Bible, and he speaks about this quite a bit. But again, how Christ's mission was to come and help us learn to, again, release self and the selfishness and how just that fact, what you said, how better relationships are when we understand what the remedy Christ brought to us, and whether in any environment, because again, I think a lot of the stresses we have today are on the fact that we are so self-focused. I think as a populace, that a lot of those stressors can be released just by understanding what he calls the remedy.
Yeah, I think, and I love that when you bring in Christ. I think Christ really was a listening leader. You know, he listens to his disciples. He listened to the people around him. He worked hard, and it is, and I want people to understand, very hard work to try to understand anybody but you. Just focusing on you, that's not hard work. Being selfish, that's not hard work. But the minute you move to trying to listen to others and to understand them and to work at what it would take for them to feel good about it, wow, that's a full-time job there. And it really takes a good spirit to do that.
Gail, how can you help someone else work towards flexibility? The only thing that comes to mind is prayer and example. And I like how you phrased it. How can you help someone else? I think we all know motivation is an interesting concept.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And there are going to be people we're not going to be able to help towards flexibility. And that's where the acceptance side of it comes in, and where boundaries work.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think one of the things I want to share is that you move a situation forward when you help the helpable. That's so important. People have to be in a place of helpability. You know, flexibility, for people who are flexible, they have to want to be flexible, willing to be flexible. But there's sometimes where you're going to come into a situation where people don't want to be flexible. They don't want to be nice. They don't want to be caring. They thrive on being a pain. The only direct answer to that is distance. You don't fight it. I'm reminded of an old Southern tale from Georgia called Burr Rabbit. And one of the phrases in Burr Rabbit was, "Don't touch the tar baby." Because if you do, you'll get stuck with it. And that's what I want to share with people out there. Negative people are like the tar baby, and you trying to make an effort is going to get you stuck and wound up into their bad mindset. The best thing to do is say, if you that's what you want to be, if you want to be inflexible, if you want to be stress causing, if you want to be a negative person, thank you, but no thank you. But if you want to change, we'll be over here and we'll be having a good time, and the door is always open for you to come in, but you're going to have to make different choices to come in. And so if people are going to change, that's how they're going to change. Trying to make people change who are negative is a thankless task, and you will wear yourself out. And the sad thing is, they can be more evil longer than you can be good. They can beat you by sticking around, because it takes less effort, emotional, spiritual, psychological effort, to be negative than it does to be positive. And so people can keep that up and make that part of their personality, and they're never going to change. And they whip people day in and day out who are trying to change them, who have a good spirit and a good mindset. But it never works. It's if you want to be negative and you want to have a negative life, let me create distance. And always offer, I'm here, I love you, I want you to be part, the door's open, but the choice is yours. And make it that other person's. And things go better when you do that.
You go better with a Coke. Gail asked about the word helpability. Gail, as we get some of these under our belt, you're going to learn there's a lot of Roger Roadisms out there. And
Yeah,
and that's,
anybody who's around me knows that.
and so once you get familiar with the Roadisms that we're going to be talking about, they'll become familiar concepts. Is asking questions a way to help self-centered? Oh, and Kim's asking again, is asking questions a way to help self-centered folks see a broader, I guess, point of view? A broader point
Well,
of view.
and asking questions is a good way to engage people in a.
Dale Carnegie, what does he say about?
What does Dale Carnegie say?
He says,
Obviously, you know what he says, and
Well,
I'm thinking, I don't know what Dale Carnegie says.
Well, Carnegie, made it very clear that how to win friends and influence people is to show interest in others.
Yes, and people love for others to be interested in them, and so that's a great way. It's like going fishing. You've got to pick the right bait, or you're not going to catch anything. There may be millions of fish down there, but if you're putting funky bait in there, it's not going to work. So sometimes you've got to get with people and try 5 or 6 different kinds of baits. And one way to do that is by asking questions. If I ask a question and you go, in my mind I need to think, I don't need to do that again. But then if I say something and I say, well, wow, you seem to show some interest, and we seem to get along better. Well, that's the right bait. And I want to keep throwing that out there, and that then that lessens the stress and opens people up to a better attitude. But the thing I want you to hear is you're not going anywhere pushing negative people. You push negative people, what that's called is a fight waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I can guarantee you it's going to happen.
So I don't, Kim, obviously, or hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, hopefully. What are you thinking? I can always, Rick got his mind right, almost hear the wheels turning.
Well, no, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. For those of you who gets to see Myra Ruiz's live cast, she does a great job, but she has a selfie stick. So maybe.
Yeah, we got to get a selfie stick. You need a selfie stick. Obviously, that'll puts a little bit of perspective in there. But with that, one of the things, we're not trying to solve every problem today, and that's what we would say in relationships. It's not about solving everything today. Some things that are solvable, solve them today. And others being willing to say, well, maybe I'm going to have to deal with that tomorrow, or next week, or even next year before I deal with that. But I'm going to put that on hold. I'm going to write that down and remember it. And if you do that, great things can happen. Again, when you're thinking it's got to be done right now, the vibe that's going to go on between you and other people is pushing. And very few people like to be pushed emotionally. They think that you're trying to start a fight, and then they'll be pushed, and they'll go along, and they'll give in, and they'll be pushed, and they'll go along and give in. But at some point, they're turning, and the fight is there, and it's not pretty.
Bev Rogers, who is one of the co-authors of Soul Healing Love with her husband Tom Rogers, I like how she makes it very clear that in life, when we do things for people we want to do, and she uses the example of a neighbor who would help the other neighbor out by taking the trash in when she would come and take her trash in. And the neighbor enjoyed doing that for their neighbor, but then when that neighbor would start saying, hon, if you would just get the trash a little bit earlier in, I'd appreciate it, or if you don't mind, bringing it in and putting it over there. And her point is that when it becomes a requirement, a lot of times it becomes resentment.
Oh, I love that. That is so true. It's again, reviewing the vibe of the environment. How's it going? How is in a good relationship there is equality in good, a give and take. You give, you take, I take. I check in, is this working for you? You check in, is that working for you? And again, now we're back to that idea, win-win. And then that's a good idea. Well, we're getting back about that time where we're going.
Yeah, you know, hey Laura, how are you? Are you down in Alabama today? And Eric, good seeing you. Eric Holland, he's another dear friend, and Eric has got involved with a group called Galen Healthcare here in Greenville. They're the where your primary care physician is in the world of concierge work, and it's a great group, and has done a good job, and they're getting some good companies on. But Eric is their practice manager over there, and Laura, Laura's been a dear friend of my daughter's, Ashley, and she's like my third daughter, and she does sports, I think, down in Alabama now. But yeah, unfortunately, we weren't going to worry if we had anything to talk about today.
Yeah, hey,
and,
this is typical for Rick and I. Do you think we'll be able to cover the time? Yeah, I think we're able to cover time. And we want to make sure that we're responsive to you. You let us know. This program is for you. It's not about us. It's for you. And we don't read minds. If you'll let us know, I think you'll see today, we'll give you the best shot we got.
Yeah, and so we'll post this, and anybody that watches it after the live is welcome to post any questions they want. As I said in the introduction, I said that a day or so ago that, yeah, it's not a Seinfeld episode where it's not a show about nothing, but it is a show about, we don't know what we're going to be talking about.
No,
and we don't know when we're going to be talking about it, and we don't know who we're going to be talking to.
Right, well, what we're looking at is what are you concerned about? And that's what we want to cover. We want you to be on the porch with us, and we want to cover whatever concerns you. And that you walk away and say, the time we invested in sitting on the porch with Rick and Roger was worth it. If that's what you say, Rick and I are happy. That's what we're here for.
All right, Roger, thank you. And we'll send out the next one and get it out enough notice when we get it figured out.
I love it. I love it. On to the next one. Thank you for being part of the show here.
Hear your advice. Wait a minute.
Huh?
Okay, yeah. And one request from Ashley is work-life balance, which is a good subject.
Woo!
So,
Yes.
So we'll work on that one for next time.
That's it.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good one.